What's up guys, and welcome back to another video of me explaining the strategy so you can at the end become a profitable trader yourself and trade this strategy just as I do. So we've already done market structure, fractal structure and premium versus discount, and now we have a couple more things to do: supply and demand, liquidity and order flow. So today it's going to be supply and demand, and we're going to see how you can use it and what it actually is. So let's take a look at the chart and let's see what a supply and demand zone is and how it works. So let's look at the chart, and what we can see is that we have like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? So basically, what is a demand zone? It is a sell before the buy. So this was a demand zone. This was a demand zone. And this was a demand zone. Okay, so these are demand zones. Sell before the buys. Okay, very clear and very easy. Now, what do we have? We've also supply zones. So in this move down, what do we see? We see upside, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, so what are these supply zones? Of course, we had supply over here. Then we have supply over here. Then we had supply over here. Then we have supply over here. So now that you know what supply and demand zones are, we can go over how you can use them and how we trade them. So let's take a look at supply and demand zones. So basically, let's begin with the demand zone, and this is the sell before the buy, right? And whenever price trades in towards such demand zone, right, it could give a reaction in towards the opposite side. So basically what happens, a lot of orders are around this point, and this pushes price back up higher. So how do we use this? Well, once we come in towards demand, we want to take advantage of this, look if this demand is going to be valid, and push price up higher. Because as we said earlier, we had this demand zone as well, right? But as you can see, from this demand, we didn't react and we didn't trade up higher. Well, that is when we wait for confirmation, which we didn't have, and we just traded down lower. Okay, so that's why we always wait for confirmation after a demand zone. And that confirmation is fractal structure. So if you want to know how to look at the confirmation, make sure to watch the fractal structure video as well. But let's first keep it to supply and demand, because we still need to cover a lot. So basically, not every supply zone or demand zone is something that we need to draw down on the chart, because then our chart would be full of zones. So which one are we going to look at? Well, first of all, we know what swing structure is and what supply and what premium versus discount is as well. If you don't know what those are, make sure to watch my explanation videos first of them before going to this video. Okay, so we know that we are bullish and that we already tapped in the discount prices, so we could move up higher. So where do we look for supply and demand zones? Well, if we are bullish, we look for demand zones, and we are looking for demand zones under or on the 50% level. Okay, because only from that 50% level we want to trade up higher. So which ones should we draw down? Well, of course, this sell before the buy, right? We can clearly see price buys, and this is a sell before the big buy. So this is a demand zone. So this demand, yes, correct, it is on that 50% level. So this could be a demand that could push price back up higher. Then we have this demand zone. Yes, this demand zone also could push price up higher because it's under the 50% level. Then we also have this demand zone, correct? And we also have this demand over here. So this one could push price up higher. But what do we see? Well, let's take a look closer at these zones. So basically we had a buy, a sell, a buy, a sell, a buy, a sell, and then a buy. So what do we see? Well, we had a sell before the buy, and then we already traded into our set demand. I hope it's clear that you can see that after we created this demand, so we had a sell and then the buy, we already tapped into our set demand and then traded up higher. What does this mean? Well, that this demand zone now becomes invalid or gives it demand to the next demand, which is now this sell before the buy. So now we have this demand which is in control and is now valid. But then what do we see? Well, we tap into our demand and then we trade up higher. So then this demand becomes invalid again. And now we have this demand which is in control. And now what do we see? We never tapped in towards that demand zone, so this demand is still valid. Okay? So once again, if you already have tapped in towards a demand zone, it becomes invalid. If the demand zone is open, it is far more likely to retrace in towards the demand and react from it as well. So what we're now expecting is, as you can see, in this demand, we could trade up higher. So then, these two were the two demands where we would look for longs, okay? And as you can see, or this is something where we should go over once we've done all of the explanation videos, but over here we didn't have confirmation so to trade up higher, and that is with the fractal structure and order flow, etc. So that's why this zone became invalid, because we just traded through it, and once we broke this demand zone just is not valid anymore. So now we had this demand zone once we broke that low, which was the only demand zone still left, and as you can see, price tapped the demand and traded up higher. Easy as that. So what you could have done is place your entry on top of this, then your stop loss under the low, and then you can just target the highs to make a new swing high. Okay, so this is how you spot supply and demand zones. So now let's take a look at what happened over here. Again, I already have a video about fractal structure, so if you don't know how fractal structure works, make sure to watch that video first before watching this section of the video. So now that I explained the market or the supply and demand zones, which will push price up higher in towards the swing high, in towards the new swing high, well, then we have a fractal break or other supply zones, so a fractal supply. So basically, after we tapped in towards this demand, we then got the fractal break over here. Again, if you don't know why this is a fractal, make sure to watch the other video. So this is the 4-hour fractal. And then what do we see? Well, that we created another sell before the buy. So let's see. We have like this little price action, up, down, and then we have upside. So now this is our demand zone, and from this demand zone we could trade up higher. So now this demand zone became invalid, and we now have made a new demand zone which is going to push price up higher. So what you could do is just place your entry on top of the demand, stop loss underneath, and just target the highs, either a new swing high or just a 1 to 3 risk to reward. Okay, so this is how you could use the demand zones as well. Now you got to keep in mind, once we're bullish, we only look at demand zones, and if we are bearish, we only look at supply zones. So what is a supply zone? Well, of course, like I explained, a buy before the sell. So over here we have a supply zone, which is clearly a buy before the sell, and it has the confluences. Price never tapped in towards that supply, so the supply is still valid. Over here we also had supply, but the supply zone, has already been mitigated, or we've already tapped in towards that supply. So this supply is not expected to hold this price, so we think that price is just going to trade up higher. So again, why do we only draw down supply zones in a bearish trend and demand zones in a bullish trend? Well, of course, we expect the demand zones to hold and for us to trade up higher in towards the new swing high. So we expect to break this supply and for this supply to fail, of course. So that's why we do not trust supply zones, because it's not going to push price down lower all the way, because we are swing bullish and trend is over just a single supply. So basically, you could have this on your screen as well or on your chart, because it could give a little reaction. But if you look at everything, you would just like to have a demand zone on your screen if you're bullish and not any supply zone. And I hope you guys understand this, because the reason for this is that we could just trade up higher from the demand and do not respect the supply, because our trend is bullish. Okay, so that was basically it, guys. I hope you liked it. If there is anything else you guys don't know about supply and demand zones, or there are any uncertainties or unclarities, then just comment down below and I will make sure that I will make a new video on it, part 2, if there is something unclear. But I think I've covered everything, and see you in the next one. Ciao.